They say the first thing you lose is your sense of humor. I lost something else, the little confidence that whatever crept in the dark would respect the rules of the real world. It started like every small terror does, a sound you tell yourself is nothing, and then the part of you that lies awake at night keeps score until the sound becomes a pattern you can no longer ignore. I remember the alley as if through a film grain. Damp brick under my palm, the smell of mildew and old smoke, the faint metallic tang of someone else's breath in the air. I had my back to the wall because standing with your back exposed makes you feel braver than you are. It's a human superstition, a childish chess move against surprise. The streetlight had given up, leaving one slice of weak amber that barely cut the dark. In that slice, I saw the edge of a face that was both plush and wrong. Too smooth, with hollow eyes like two sockets someone had forgotten to fill. At first, I thought it was a costume, some prankster, a performance for clicks. The creature had the warped geometry of a child's toy. Round head, a triangular antenna, a smile that knew jokes it had no right to tell. But the smile sat below a tiny, precise cross carved into the forehead, a mark that did not belong on anything meant for a child. The air around it smelled faintly of plastic and wet cardboard, like a box left in a storm. When I swallowed, my throat made the loudest sound in the world. The first real thing that made my skin go tight was a noise so quiet I could have missed it. A soft, wet rustle, like fingers dragged over velvet. It came from the space between the brick and the shadow. I turned my head slowly, the sort of movement you make when you hope whatever is there will resolve into a cat, a branch, an explanation you're too tired to invent. It did not. It curved closer, as if reading the seam in my shirt. I counted off my breaths because panic is a math that steadies you. 1, 2. The breath on the back of my neck was cold and deliberate. 3. My name, not spoken but folded into a tiny whistling hum, traveled down the spine like a train coming. I felt watched from an angle my eyes couldn't reach, the kind of watching that catalogs your joints and learns how you bend. Something pressed a small, warm weight into the base of my skull. Not heavy, just enough to make me feel anchored in a way that wasn't mine. There was a laugh then, the sound of an old cartoon record skipping, and the smile in the dark edged wider, patient as a predator. I wanted to move. My legs obeyed a different law. They stayed. My hands found the rough brick instead, as if I could attach myself there and stop whatever wanted me from slipping away. I do not know how long I remained pinned to that wall while whatever it was rehearsed and smiled. Time contracted into a handful of seconds and stretched into a slow, rehearsed nightmare. When the creature tilted its head and the darkness behind it seemed to breathe, I realized that this was no prank. This was something that knew the shape of my fear. I tried to laugh it off. That was my first mistake, thinking sound could outrun what was stalking me. The laugh left my mouth like a dry wrapper. It didn't reach the creature. Instead, the thing answered with a tiny, mechanical chuckle that sounded like coins rolling in a mason jar. The laugh didn't echo, it multiplied, a chorus of small, precise noises mounting from the brick itself. The wall vibrated under my palm, a low animal rumble that did not belong to mortar. I forced myself to step away. My feet found the cracked pavement as if I were waking from a dream. Behind me, the shadow gave a slow, almost theatrical clap. When I looked, the thing had moved, not by long strides, but by small adjustments, like a toy being nudged across a table. Each time I blinked, its face rearranged itself. The smile softened, then sharpened. The eye sockets seemed deeper, then strangely moist, reflecting the failing light. The cross on its forehead glinted, not with light, but with intention. People passed. That was the worst of it. They passed like glass through glass, unfazed. A couple arguing under a neon sign didn't glance at me. A man with a shopping bag walked right between me and the creature as though sliding past a pole. When I reached out, pleading, absurd, fingers brushing air where a shoulder should have been, their eyes slid over me. It felt as if the creature had taught the world to ignore me. For a terrifying second, I entertained the very private thought, maybe I had been invisible all along. It learned things about me while I watched. It hummed the lullaby my mother used to sing, the one I had sworn to forget after the divorce. It imitated the cadence of my voice and used it to call my name from a direction where my name had never been called. The sound tore the air like thin paper. Memory is a dangerous thing to hand to a predator. It knows which strings to pluck until you are nothing but a puppet that believes every remembered tug. I tried to record it. My hands shook so badly the phone's screen blurred into white. When I played the clip back, there was only static and, beneath it, the faint patter of childish feet and a whisper that sounded like my own breath. My reflection in the black screen showed me pressed against the wall, eyes wide. Behind me, faint and layered under the grain of the image, was another shape, my shape, smiling with too many teeth. Panic turned my muscles syrup slow. I ran because not running felt like permission. The alley stretched, then shortened, corners folded like paper, bringing me back to the same damp brick, the same slice of weak amber light. Every turn returned me to that thing, closer now, as if it were rewiring the space to make it a cage. The air had a taste to it now, copper and sugar, like coins dipped in syrup. My tongue felt huge and foreign. It touched the inside of my wrist then, not with fingers, but with a cold press against the pulse I thought only belonged to me. It learned my beat and hummed along to it. And in that synchronized sound, the creature sang a line I had never told anyone, a secret from childhood, a shame I had buried so deep even my dreams avoided it. The words were gentle. They were not meant for comfort. It said, in my voice, exactly what I feared most. You can run, but you already know how this ends. I thought the only way out was forward. So I stepped into the space it had folded around me, into the thin ring of light where the world still pretended to be ordinary. The closer I got, the more the edges of reality frayed. The street lamp hummed like a fridge left on. The air tasted faintly of pennies and cold milk. The creature waited, upright and patient, its smile practiced to the last millimeter. When I raised my hand, it mirrored me a heartbeat later, perfectly, mockingly synchronized. There was no fear on its face, only attendance, as if it had been waiting its entire life to be examined. I tried to pull the mask off. My fingers closed on the seam at the jaw and found, not hollow fabric, but skin, warm, textured, impossibly human. It was a violation so precise I remember the exact sound, a soft internal tear, like paper peeling from wet paint. The face gave way, and beneath, a smaller shadow crouched, a child's outline folded into the creature's mechanics. It looked at me with those awful empty sockets, then blinked, and there were eyes there, my eyes, only older, tired, with the same small scar at the left brow I'd earned falling off my bike at 10. Everything convened then, memory and present and the small, ugly things I'd buried. The creature did not flinch when I recoiled. Instead, it laughed the way a thing does when it has learned the secret word. It spoke in a chorus of my own breaths and all the voices that had ever loved or hurt me. Names, both gentle and cutting, spilled into the alley. My mother's lullaby threaded through them, and under it, a whisper I had never admitted even to myself the moment I chose to look away. I slapped at it, blind with a desperation that tastes like salt and iron. My hands passed through and came away sticky, as if I had been touching something substantial and then not. When I looked down, my palms were smeared with a dark, viscous ink that smelled faintly of the plastic from which it had drawn its shape. The ink was warm and pulsed like a living thing. It left fingerprints on the brick that faded seconds later, like a sea retreating and pretending it had never been anywhere. The final thing it taught me was how small my body could feel in a world that refuses to notice. It stepped behind me and mirrored me perfectly, arm for arm, breath for breath. I could feel my heartbeat learned and counted, like a song it could now sing anywhere. It pressed close enough that the cross on its forehead brushed the nape of my neck. The touch was a cold punctuation mark. I remember the sound that followed, not loud but intimate, a small click like the closing of a toy box. Then the world split on a seam I had never seen before. The people passed as if nothing had happened, their shadows falling over us both. I turned to look at my reflection in a car window, and for a second, the person staring back smiled before I could. It was always me.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.